Hello and welcome to another edition of the Movie Kit podcast. I'm your host, Kit Bowen. We've got a very furious show for you today. We're going to review the latest in the Mad Max Saga, Furiosa, starring Anya-Taylor Joy and others. I'm going to do this review with my very good friend Joel Amos. Joel, how are you today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Ready for our high-octane
Oh yeah,
conversation?
lots of horsepower.
So yes, Furiosa, Mad Max Saga, Anya-Taylor Joy, and Chris Hemsworth. Of course, that's who I meant to say. Directed once again by George Miller. Really, on the synopsis is short: the origin story of the renegade warrior Furiosa before her encounter and team up with Mad Max. It also stars, actually, a bunch of Australian actors, but the one I wanted to point out is Tom Burke, who plays a
Yes.
pivotal character in the film. But I'm going to let you start us off, Joel. What did you think of Furiosa?
Oh my God, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It just like never let up. I mean, even when it did let up, the stakes were still so high that you could just feel the underlying tension still there. It just never goes away. And it's just the life that these people are living that was first established in the early 80s with Mel Gibson, Mad Max. It's uh, technology's allowed director writer George Miller to do so much more nowadays, and
Yeah.
he even employed the use of like some drone cameras with this, and it just man, it just heightened the action. It just the way it was shot, it was so deliberately precise, and it's such a contrast because it's like it has to be so precise and so
Mm-hmm.
thought out and so um attention to detail for Miller as a director, and everything has to be mapped out with these cars raging at like 100 miles an hour and this that and the other thing, and all these shots have to be set up, and it had to be so painstakingly uh painful to put together, but like the way he did it, it is miraculous. It is just unreal how it feels, it sounds. I saw it in a Dolby theater, and boy, am I glad I did.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it just the way the sound, the engines and the fighting and the clash of metal on metal, and it just, man, it's really really good. And I was just really impressed. And Anya Taylor Joy, of course, I think she's amazing. She's always amazing.
Yeah.
She was just incredible in this. If anything, I just was really antsy to get to her. But
Yes.
that's just me. I mean, it takes a little
No,
bit.
me too.
I mean, not really that long, but like when they finally like the camera like goes under this scene, and like these eyes open, I'm like, because you could barely see her face when we first see her. I'm like, I'd know those eyes anywhere. I'm like, we're
Yeah.
finally here. So, but
Apparently, she only
that
had
being
like 30 lines of dialogue. That's
right,
it. Didn't talk
but
much.
fierce as all get up.
Yes.
My
Yeah.
goodness. And if anyone's going to make us forget about Charlize, which is like impossible to do, she sure gave it an incredible effort.
Yeah. I loved it too. I did. But I felt the same way you did. I felt it took a little too long to get to Anna. I mean, the little girl that played the young Furiosa was tremendous. I thought she
Tremendous.
did an amazing job, and the looks just like Anya. So I mean, it was such an easy transition to make. And in fact, when Anya finally does appear, you're not quite sure if it's Anya or that little girl because I mean, Anya's very
Hmm.
slim and trim in this, and she's little kind of in a way. So yeah, it was good, but I thought it could have been tightened a little bit for that. I thought the thing about this one that's interesting in its own right is that it takes more time. So we're talking about 15-year span here instead of
Hmm.
the 3 days of assault that we're given in Fury Road. I mean, it's just nonstop, bam. This time around, we had some times to take a breath, which is good, and it also, I mean, I think it's good to tell the story of Furiosa because apparently this had been mapped out even before Fury Road was made. Charlize knew her whole backstory and everything, so which that's normal, I think, for a character or an actor to know at least a little bit. Either they make it up themselves, or George told her about it. But the thing that's so amazing about this particular franchise is that George Miller has driven it, pun intended, from the start. This
Hmm.
is his world. This is his universe. He knows it inside
Period.
and out. There hasn't been another director to come in and try to take over and do a movie in
Mm-mm.
this universe. So, I think from the very beginning, he's always, the first three, the first four movies, I guess. It's about Max, who's just been one of the most, indelible action characters to hit the screen. It's just, yeah. I mean, he is he epitomizes what this world's all about, and now to introduce a new character like Furiosa, it's just a layer, an extra creamy layer on the top of this franchise, I think. I actually just rewatched Fury Road, and now when you rewatch it after seeing Furiosa, you have a new appreciation for the character.
I really
Even though
want to
I'm
do that.
not, yeah,
I want
I
to do
don't
that
even know.
tonight.
Yeah, you should, you should. I don't even know if we needed this, in the world. I mean, Fury Road was almost a perfect action movie to me. I mean, literally, it's in my top three. Uh, it's just the characters, the scenes, the action, the quest. It's all perfect, almost nearly perfect, in my opinion. And even though I watched it, I wanted to know what happened to Furiosa, how she lost her arm, all that. I mean, I did, but at the same time, it just added to her mystique, in my opinion.
Mm.
So learning about her backstory in this film, it's still intriguing and still worth watching. I'm just saying I don't know if I necessarily needed it, but now that it's here and it's in this world, I'm down with it. It just could have been shortened a little bit. I just the and then Hemsworth, wow,
Oh,
he
whoa.
loves he loves to do this kind of stuff and be different. I mean, I know he's done a few things beyond Thor, obviously, but he looked like he was having a blast, as Demetis or Demetrius or Demetis, Demetis, I don't know, whatever this name is. Sort of half villain, half not, kind of, because there's a little bit of a father figure situation
Mhm.
going on with their relationship, even if it is twisted. And then Tom Burke, as I mentioned before, he's sort of a mentor to Furiosa and kind of shows her
Yeah.
the ropes on how to drive the war rig. And I thought that relationship, kind of brought in a little Maxie in there, like a little,
Yeah.
kind of had that little dynamic again. So then you understand you know, why she actually does warm up to Max quicker than maybe she would have if she didn't have that kind of relationship already in her life, or had that relationship in her life. But yeah, I mean, look, it was fierce, and it really literally takes you up to the moment of Fury
Huh?
Road, and I I still have to say ultimately though Fury Road's still my favorite, even
Well,
over War Warrior, which is still a classic. But Fury Road, I don't know. It's hard to top it. It was hard to top it.
I mean,
What do you say?
I don't know if I've ever sat down and done my own personal top 10 because I keep saying, like, oh, it's in my top 10 of all time. And like, I should actually probably write that down because it's probably more like 30 or 50. But like, I mean, I can just say, like, Fury Road is in my top 10, like,
Yeah,
of all time. I think it's just like a perfect movie. But
it
like,
is.
the thing is, like, for me, what was so special being a fan of Mad Max since the very first movie, which spawned my love of Australia as a young teenager. And before I knew it, my whole room was covered in Australian flags. And the America's Cup, they won, they upset the Americans, the Australians did. So I had an autographed picture of the sailboat that won. I mean, it's nuts. Anyway, I love how it's always been assumed that this was Australia. And I love the first shot of this movie, how it starts with like from outer space and it zooms down and you go into the wasteland of Australia, the outback. And you're like, so that was confirmation, even though we always kind of knew. What also is interesting about this prequel is it's also kind of the first time we get an inkling into what happened, like why the world went away. Like we don't necessarily know exactly why, but we're hearing news reports at the beginning of the
Right.
movie while it's black. So you're like, oh, okay, so this, is telling us how things. So not only do we find out how Furiosa came to be so furious, we learned how this world even came to be. So I thought
Yeah.
that was really kind of interesting for me. And what also is interesting too is because after watching Fury Road, I really wanted to know what this paradise that she kept talking about, where she was from, was
Yeah.
was like, and to see it, even for a brief minute, 90 seconds, whatever it was, before things hit the fan, um,
Yeah.
like George Miller does so well. Here's some peace, enjoy some pretty pictures, and bam! Sorry, hope you weren't
Yeah.
too comfortable. Um, it was just nice for me to see that and to see her talk about that. But like to me, part of the this was a revenge story, and yes, like he killed her mother, but like over the 15, 18, 19 years it was that kind of this movie takes place, we learn even more, she gets even more reasons why she wants this guy, why she
Yeah.
wants Dr. Dementus, because he's done so many things, and yeah, I mean, at one point he calls her my daughter,
Yes.
and like, but yet at the same time he was just like, oh well, about certain things with her, like, okay,
Yeah.
easy come easy go. So you're like, is he? But then like he talks about maybe he had a family, we don't know for sure. Like you kind of like get to see what made him, and he had a ball. I see a lot of critics calling this movie like amazing, and 4 or 5 stars, but they're saying that they thought he went over the top. I thought he was pitch perfect. I
Well,
thought
he
that
did
was
go over the top, but that was the character.
that's what I'm saying, is that is
Yeah.
exactly what was required. I mean, if you were in the desert in the end of the world and there's no water or food around, and the most premium thing you can have is gasoline, I think you'd probably start to go a little bananas over the years.
Well, it's a
And
power trip.
and you
I mean,
tool around the wasteland in a Roman chariot led by motorcycles. Like what? Like that's awesome.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the whole by the way, it gives a little of what happened to the world too in front of Fury Road because I'm just watching it again and
Yeah.
it's yeah. So
Okay.
they give a little glimpse to that. Of course, we all saw Mad Max, so we kind of know the very first one. Well,
Right.
if you're part of this franchise, and you I hope you've watched the first one.
Right.
But yeah, that kind of gives also how things get screwed up. But I mean, it's again, it's all about men playing war. I mean, that's another message in this film is, they all want power, they all want, you know, to be idolized, to be whatever. Morton Joe, he's got his world, and Gastown, there's a person who runs that, and Bullet Farm. We got to see all of those too, which
Citadel.
was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very cool.
and and it's and Hemsworth's character comes in and he's like, I want it all. But the problem is he's not very smart, you know?
No, no.
He's a bit dim-witted. So, he doesn't map it up. He just thinks he can just, roar through and win, but that's not necessarily the case. So, um yeah, I mean, I agree he goes over the top, and it's warranted. It didn't bother me. It didn't make me roll my eyes at any point. It's just, I mean, all of
Mm-mm.
the bad guys in these films have been sort of over the top.
Mm.
Except for Morton Joe, who's,
Well,
but even him too. I mean, just
just a
whatever.
wee bit.
So
Just his
that's
whole
what that's all
cabinet,
about. Yeah.
like the whole cabinet of Joe's, like what this is this world. I mean, you just gotta love it as
The
as
grotesque, the
as
grotesque.
grotesquely slimy as it is,
George
but
Miller loves the grotesque. I mean,
oh yeah. Well,
he
yeah,
go ahead.
I was thinking that like he's kind of like Tarantino in that he likes to cover his actors in garbage crap, whether it's blood or dirt or grease or whatever. Like his actors are prepare to go home like a mess.
Ugh,
But one thing I was going to say, like to George's credit, like, yeah, it was a little bit long, and that was because it took a little while to get to Anya-Taylor Joy. But the thing is, what I really loved is when she and Praetorian Jack, Tom Burke, when he's like, I'm gonna teach you everything and da da da, and then you'll have your freedom and blah blah blah. Like I was like, oh goodness, we're gonna be in for a training montage. And of course it's gonna be pretty cool because it's George Miller and it's Furiosa. But then they just cut to like she's already trained and they're on
Yeah.
a mission. And
Yep.
I'm just like, thank you. Like we didn't need that. So I don't know if
No.
he had like written that or he was just one of these people who are like, you know what, we don't need the training montage. You do realize you can just cut to the person being ready to go.
Yeah. Well,
So
I
anyway,
think I don't even know if she needed that much training because when we first see her, basically she's under the truck fixing it as it goes. So it's like I have
what
this feeling she already has the chops.
what
He's
she
just
does,
yeah,
I'm sorry, yeah. What she does on the motorcycle when she's a
yes,
kid, she's been driven
yes,
out there with her hands and feet tied. I'm like, yeah, yeah, it's in her.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't think there's much training involved. He just sees her potential as being, someone who can lead and take charge and also, be badass, which she is 100%. So, yeah, yeah. I mean, the action sequences were just as great. I think though, I do think that people who are maybe expecting to see the sort of non-stopness of Left Ferry Road may realize that it's not quite like that in this one. There's a little more storytelling, a little more narrative going on, than just hitting the ground running kind of thing. So, which I like I said, the more I think about the movie, the more I like it. But watching, I was like, oh, I want a little more action. Oh, where's that? I mean, there was a few times I'm like, come on, let's get some action going here. But then when I think about it now, I think that it was done in a good way because
Mhm.
you needed to tell a story, and in telling a story in this situation, you needed some extra time for that. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
so yeah,
and I think also too that like I mean I didn't time it, but I would guess when there I don't want to give anything away, but like there's a sharpshooter, let's just say that you
yes,
know right there at the beginning. I mean, shots are fired, like and motorcycles and things are driven like probably within 5 minutes. But
yeah,
then there's that she's at Chris Hemsworth's place and all that part, and there's not very much action there except when
yeah,
she kicks people and headbutts them or whatever. And just like
yeah,
Chris Hemsworth's like, I like you. He just
yeah.
he sees something in her too, I think.
Oh yeah, oh
But
yeah,
like he
definitely.
also
There's a
he
connection.
yeah, I mean, but in the end, he's a narcissist, and if he can't use her anymore, he does not going to use her anymore.
Right.
Um, so anyway, it's I thought it was just really well put together. And when I left the theater, I just had a thought, and I knew that we were going to talk about it today, and that like, I am going to probably give this. Well, I'm not going to probably. I am going to give this the same grade that I gave Fury Road, and I'm not going to reveal that yet. But Fury Road is still like better. I don't want to use that word, but it's just I like it a little bit more, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
me too. No, because I am an action junkie, and how it just starts the ground, like I said, just hits the ground running. It's nonstop, and Miller does, he uses his environment amazingly, but also he doesn't use a lot of CG. So a lot of that stuff was really happening. The stunts, were fairly incredible. But yeah, like I said, but I think both of these movies now can live in the same world because I think Furiosa does do a nice job in telling the story of this character, and we really like this character. So if we move forward, now with the sequel of Fury Road with Max and Furiosa still in the world, then I'm down. I'm all for it. We'll see what happens next, kind of thing. I hope he keeps
He-
making these movies. I know he's getting a little older there, but I hope he
He's
keeps making them.
73, but I keep seeing pictures of Clint Eastwood. He's 93, I think today. And
Wow.
he's in the middle of mixing his new film, and he just says like, I have to keep busy, or the oldness creeps up
But
on me.
these must take a lot out of him. These are
But still,
rough,
it's like,
man.
I think, yeah, but like the thing is, I heard like his plan is that like it's essentially going to be a Furiosa 2 is kind of for him what's next.
Gotcha.
Um, so it's I found it interesting that it kind of took us right up to Fury Road, but yet his plans are for another Furiosa story with Anya. So
Ah,
I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I just
yeah.
I think he needed to close the circle in this movie, and then he can kind of how to deconstruct
Move
things or
forward.
whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Move forward.
trust him. This world has just been his, and I find it interesting that he's directed very little else other than these Mad Max movies, other than, ironically, and he won an Oscar for it, Happy Feet,
Right. That's right.
which cracks me up to no
It
end.
does. It does.
Singing penguins and
Absolutely. Come on.
Mad Max,
All right. So what's your
like
rating of Furiosa?
five, 5 stars.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go a little less, um, because I did think it went almost long. So I'm gonna go 4.5. Because 5 is for me is
Fair.
Fury Road and 4.5 is for me is Furiosa. But still way worth watching. Definitely
Yeah,
go see it on the biggest screen you can, either Dolby or IMAX. It's worth
yeah,
it. It's worth the extra money. You're
yeah.
gonna you'll just be immersed once again, and you definitely want to. So check it out on the big screen. Thanks, Joel, for
Hey,
joining
my
us in a
pleasure,
great conversation about
as always.
yeah, as always. I mean, this is one of my favorite of franchises for sure. I was just saying,
Oh yeah,
telling the story about how I didn't even know about it really, because I know Road Warrior came out in '81, and I don't know when Mad Max came out, but 80.
83, I think
Okay,
it was.
no, no,
Or
the
no, oh
first
sorry. Oh yeah, 80.
80. Okay, so they came out boom boom, and I had no idea about them really. I had just started college. Well, I was the first one came out. I was still in high school, but by the time I knew about it and watched it, I was at a club, and they had like this whole corner of the air of the club where it was like a bar, whatever, that was sort of lounge couches and stuff. And on the screen there was a big screen on the wall, and they were playing Road Warrior. And I'm
I've
like,
seen.
I get with no sound, just the
Oh,
visuals. And I'm watching this going, what in the hell is this movie? I go, well, I don't, what is this? Nobody knew what it was, of course. No one around me knew who it was. And my friends are like, come on, let's go dance. I go, I can't, I'm watching this movie. What is this?
oh my
And I
God,
finally find out, and I'm like, oh my God.
I'm so the same person.
Sound.
There have been so
Especially
many
without,
clubs I've been at, and like I've been dancing or whatever, but they like have a movie on in the background, or
right.
it's part of the ambience, and I'm like staring at the movie. like
I know I
come
can't.
on. I'm
No,
like,
I'm
no, wait.
sorry. What is
I
this?
got
What
like
is this?
they're like, there's no
What is
sound. I'm
this?
like, I don't need the sound. This has
Need the
got me.
sound. This has cooked me big time. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was funny. All right, so I think we might be taking a week off on the podcast, but I believe starting on June 7th looks like ours our next
Yeah, there's really not
big week
much.
next
There's
week,
not
huh?
much on the
31st.
31st,
Yeah.
but we got Bad Boys on the 7th.
We got Bad Boys on the set, and also The Watchers, which I don't know if
Yeah, The
we'll have a chance
Watchers.
to see, but I'm kind of looking forward to that. Directed by M. Night's daughter, so we'll see how
Yeah,
that works out.
and
I think
a Netflix original with the it guy of the world right now, um,
Glenn Powell,
Ben Powell in Hitman, and
Hitman. I've heard
I have
really good things about it.
really good things.
Yeah,
So that's going to be on Netflix, so I should be able to see that.
yeah. Let's do those.
That one. So we'll do those.
We'll do those. We'll try to get it done. Thanks again, Joel, and thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back soon with more reviews. Take care. Bye bye.